Good morning, everybody. MikesMMAPicks here with your Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown show brought to you by BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker. We are here for UFC 269, where we have Dustin Poirier taking on Charles do Bronx Oliveira. Wow. 11 of 14 fights are scheduled to end inside the distance. Right now, let's kick things off with the first fight of the night, where we have Priscilla Cachoeira taking on Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson coming in at a minus 390 betting favorite, which if you've watched Jillian Robertson fight, you know that she is a deer in the headlights on the feet, especially the longer the fight goes. Cachoeira is coming in overweight in this specific matchup. She looked great on the scales, Cachoeira, even though she is missing weight. Robertson, if she's unable to secure top position early, this could be a dangerous spot. I'll be picking Jillian Robertson. I think that the clearest path to victory here is Robertson taking Cachoeira down and locking in a submission, though there are no certainties in this game. If this fight ends up getting out of the first round, look for Cachoeira to land a big bomb. Give me Robertson, though, and Robertson inside the distance. I do not like that minus 390 price tag on Jillian Robertson. Next fight of the night, where we have Randy Costa, who's coming off of his loss to Yanez. Costa coming in as a minus 175 betting favorite, taking on Tony Kelley. Tony Kelley, who is saying all the right things in the lead up to this fight. You look at his fight against Kai Kamaka, looked to be winning that fight up until the third round when he ended up jumping a guillotine, which how many fighters has that cost us throughout the years? Incredible. There'll be a fighter later on the card who will be talking out who could potentially jump guillotine and may end up locking something up. But right now, let's talk about Randy Costa, who has a reach advantage in this spot. Looked better on the scales here. The question marks for Randy Costa is, does he have the wherewithal to pace himself for 3 hard rounds, which Tony Kelley is going to look to come in and break Randy Costa? I think that is a legitimate possibility in this matchup. Randy Costa, though, the more precise striker, the fighter who I believe is going to end up hurting Tony Kelley. And I see Randy Costa ending Tony Kelley's night here. I'm going to be picking Randy Costa to win inside the distance. Next up, third fight of the night, where we have Ryan Hall taking on Darrick Minner. Ryan Hall coming off of a devastating loss to Ilia Topuria, where the aura of invincibility for Ryan Hall is gone. Darrick Minner is a kill or be killed fighter. You look up and down Darrick Minner's resume. He has 8 submission losses. James Krause is looking to reel Darrick Minner in and have him fight to his strengths here. He's mentioned in numerous interviews that Minner, Krause has the controls of the joystick here. My question is, can Darrick Minner adhere to James Krause's tutelage throughout the duration of a 15-minute fight? Because there are going to be some sketchy moments here. You know, Ryan Hall is going to be, the Imanari rules are going to be in full effect here. There's going to be the possibility of a heel hook being locked in. Does Hall have the gas tank? Does Minner have the gas tank? I think that this fight is not going to go to a decision. I think at some point, Minner's going to find himself inside of Ryan Hall's guard, and he's going to get swept. Hall's going to end up on top, and Hall is going to end up locking up a submission at some point during this bout. Granted, you listen to the interviews and you're hearing Derek Minner saying that he's going to, that he will not be deterred by the boos of the crowd, that he's going to stick to a smart, judicious game plan here. I don't see that happening. I think he's going to get sucked in. You look at, sometimes you can teach an old dog new tricks. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think Ryan Hall will win this fight, though. You know that Ryan Hall is going to end up on his back at some point during the fight, and those are bad optics. So give me Ryan Hall. Sketchy fight, though. Next up, where we have Erin Blanchfield, who is coming in as a slight underdog, taking on Muniz-Maverick. This fight, I wish we would have gotten to see Erin Blanchfield take on Norma Dumont. That fight was pulled away from us. Muniz-Maverick, massive fighter coming into her own. You watch the Cachoeira-Robertson fight, held her own on the ground in that fight, was able to get the whizzer, get back to her feet. And here she's going to be tested as far as the ground game goes. You know, Blanchfield, that's her path to victory in this spot. Blanchfield, not much to be said in her matchup last time out. You know, Sarah Alpar, a win over Sarah Alpar does not tell us much. The head movement, the lack thereof, as far as Blanchfield goes, she's a young fighter. There's still a lot of room for growth. It's a shame that both of these fighters have to be facing one another so early in their respective careers. Muniz-Maverick, more fluid striker who has many more tools at her disposal on the feet. Southpaw coming in, more powerful striker, more durable in my eyes. Blanchfield hasn't really grown into her frame. The lack of strength could be an issue here. I think we are going to see Muniz-Maverick out-muscle Erin Blanchfield. This fight does hit the mat. Is Maverick going to have the technical ability to get her to work her way back to the feet? Especially, this is a larger octagon, so she's not going to have the benefit of the cage to help her get back to her feet. So is she going to be able to get up in space? That's the question. And can she keep this fight on the feet? The longer this fight that stays on the feet, Muniz-Maverick does have a huge advantage. Training out of Colorado, I think that Maverick should be a heavier favorite in this spot. I'll be picking Muniz-Maverick. Next up, where we have a middleweight bout between Andre Muniz taking on Eric Anders. Eric Anders coming in as a plus 130 underdog here. This line has closed. Muniz coming off of the submission heard round the world where he snapped Jacare Souza's arm, and that fight really sent some shockwaves through the division. Andre Muniz now steps in as a minus 160 betting favorite. This fight, I think that Anders is getting a little bit disrespected in this bout. Anders has not been submitted, and the one thing I'll say about Eric Anders is he's robotic in nature. He is one of the easiest fighters to game plan for because you know exactly what you're going to get. Even the fight ready camp change hasn't really changed much as far as his game goes. He's going to march forward. He's going to use his toughness and put that on display. If Muniz is able to put Anders on his back, that is going to pose some serious threats here for Eric Anders. I will be picking Muniz in this spot. I think the longer this fight goes, though, I don't trust Muniz's gas tank. So the longer this fight goes, if this gets out of the second round, hit that live bet button on Eric Anders. But I'll be picking Muniz to win. I think that it's clear he has the more technical grappling upside in this spot. So give me Andre Muniz in that matchup. Next matchup, where we have Bruno Silva taking on Jordan Wright. Bruno Silva coming in as a massive minus 350 favorite. You look at Bruno Silva's record and you see those 18 TKO knockout victories. I mean, no, there is no debating whether or not Bruno Silva is a knockout artist. You look at the other side of the fight and you see Jordan Knight, Beverly Hills Ninja. I will say that this is a kid who goes for it. There's no fear. There's no question about what his goal is. His goal is to knock out his opponent almost every time out. Watch Bruno Silva's last time out. He took on Sanchez, was able to eventually work his way back to the feet. Sanchez gassed himself out, and that led to Silva pouring the kitchen sink on here. And Jordan Wright, does he have the stamina to drag Bruno Silva into the later rounds? I don't see that happening. I think this is a kill or be killed spot. I do like the under in this specific fight. Jordan Wright, there is the path if he wants to take it to the ground, but I do not see this fight playing out for significant stretches of time on the mat. We are fighting in the larger octagon at the T-Mobile Arena. Bruno Silva will be my pick inside the distance, though let's be real here. Bruno Silva, there are some big holes in his game. Not only the ground, but also he seems to run out of gas as well. And Jordan Wright, he's going to go for it. So I think the odds are a little wide in this spot. If I'm being completely honest here, I'll be picking Bruno Silva inside the distance. I think that this fight does not make it to the third round. Next up, where we have Augusto Sakai, heavyweights, taking on Tai-Tuivasa. Tai-Tuivasa put a lot of smiles on many faces out there when he finished Greg Hardy. Many were waiting for that to happen. Tuivasa coming in as a -125 betting favorite, taking on Augusto Sakai, who, let's be honest here, he's the more well-rounded fighter who has a better gas tank. Granted, Sakai has been finished in his last couple of fights. Can he extend Tuivasa, who tends to have the wheels fall off in many of his fights? The longer it goes, Tuivasa starts to fade, and Sakai can pour volume on. He does have some Muay Thai that could pose Tuivasa problems here, and I'll be picking Sakai here, though you look at probabilities here, and also could Sakai's durability be in question? Yes. Tuivasa does have the power here, but these are two men who are flabby heavyweights who the cardio, I really question what's holding both of these fighters back as far as their strength and conditioning. I'll be picking Sakai, though. Next fight up, we have Pedro Munhoz against Dom Cruz, former champion Dominic Cruz. But before that, let's just take a look at these comments here. Thank you, Matthew. Good to see you this morning. Great to be up on a fight morning here. No coffee in hand, but trust me, there have been multiple cups of coffee ingested today. Andre, good to see you. And also in regards to the previous fight, Tai can be finished only by ground and pound. One punch KO is not likely. Okay. So let's get back to this matchup where we have Pedro Munhoz, the young Punisher, taking on Dominic Cruz. Interesting fight. Odds, it's been basically a pick'em for most of the week. And you look at how this fight could potentially play out. Dominic Cruz is going to look to stay on his horse inside of the larger octagon, going to use his footwork. But let's cut to the chase. I see Dominic's footwork as being a disguise. He is basically a puppeteer out there, very cerebral fighter who is looking to force his opponent to make mistakes and then capitalize on those. I do not... The striking technique of Dominic Cruz comes into play here. He's made the most out of his God-given abilities, and where the rubber meets the road is going to be the leg kicks for Pedro Munhoz. It has not we have not seen Pedro Munhoz nullified when it comes to landing his leg kicks. Larger octagon, cherry-picked opponent for Dominick Cruz, a fighter who's at a reach disadvantage, who is shorter, who can lose volume-based decisions. Though, you look at Dominick Cruz's past few fights, and he is susceptible to the leg kick. You watch Henry Cejudo, you watch Casey Kenny. There have been others. In this spot, Dom Cruz, I believe, is going to have to force the wrestling here if he wants to win this fight. I don't think Pedro Munhoz is going to sit back. He's not going to be threatened by Dominick Cruz's striking. He should walk through the fire. I think he's going to end up landing leg kicks. I think this is going to be a battle, a war of attrition, so to speak, where we have Pedro Munhoz running away with this fight late, and I am concerned about the durability of Dominick Cruz the longer this fight goes. You look at the scales and watch Dominick Cruz. He's one of the last fighters to weigh in. He's getting up there in age. Both of these fighters, a year and a half age difference, but you look at the damage, and both of these fighters have eaten a lot of damage. But Pedro Munhoz, he can take the damage, and I question Dominick Cruz's durability at this stage in his career. I'll be picking Pedro Munhoz in this matchup. And one spot to look at if your book has the Pedro Munhoz scorecards, no action. If Munhoz wins inside the distance, if it does hit the scorecards, it's a push. Just take a peek at that. I'll be picking Pedro Munhoz in this spot, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Dom Cruz. We know how cerebral he is. To see Dominick Cruz pull away for a decision victory, that would not shock me, but I'll be picking Pedro Munhoz, and I could see him accomplishing this job inside the distance. Now, next up, where we have Josh Emmett taking on Dan Ige. Josh Emmett has been outside of the octagon, recovering from a blown out knee in the Shane Burgos bout. You watched that fight. Whew. Josh Emmett was on fire in that fight, and he had some complications recovering from the blown out knee, taking on a Dan Ige who's coming off of a loss to Korean Zombie. Dan Ige, both of these fighters similar in stature, similar skill set, both extremely durable. Only 2 losses on Josh Emmett's record. Josh Emmett he's no spring chicken. He is 36 years of age, closing in on his 37th birthday. Dan Ige getting better fight by fight. That 5 rounds of experience versus Korean Zombie can only help him. Both fighters have some holes in their games. This should be an absolute war. Couple of questions for me. Josh Emmett, his knee. Is Dan Ige going to target his knee? Josh Emmett welcomes that. It's interesting. He said something like, put an X on my knee and I will have a right cross ready for Dan Ige. This is a guy who was working on his head movement while he was sitting in a chair recovering from his knee surgery. This is a guy who lives, eats, and breathes fighting, dedicating his fight to his fallen family members. Fascinating matchup. If we weren't looking at Josh Emmett, who's recovering from this knee surgery, he would be a much wider favorite in this spot. Having flashbacks of Kevin Lee coming off of his multiple ACL repairs was not the same in that spot. That could be a situation here where this is baked into the odds. I think that Josh Emmett should win this fight, though there are question marks as far as age goes, as far as durability, etc. I understand folks getting in on Dan Ige at plus 150, etc. But at this stage of the game, the play in my eyes is Josh Emmett. He hasn't shown us many holes. Dan Ige is if he pours on volume, that's one challenge for Josh Emmett. He could get down on on volume, but Josh Emmett cracks, and I mean he cracks. So give me Josh Emmett in this spot. We have a number of Team Alpha Male fighters on this card, and we'll talk about another fighter up next. Let's see what we got here. We've got a few other folks who are chiming in. All right. Let's see. We've got a few folks in the comments section. Evan says Josh Emmett is a tremendous athlete. Yes, I agree. But he also is getting up in age, and that is a legitimate concern here. We have to realize that is part of the equation. But let's get back to the fights here, where we have Sean O'Malley taking on Ryan Paiva. Ryan Paiva coming in as a plus 235 underdog against Sugar Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean O'Malley minus 305 betting favorite. This is a young man, Sean O'Malley, who is coming off of the Martino fight, who took everything and kept moving forward. O'Malley, you could see in his eyes there was a bit of hesitation. Did he want to empty his clip to a point where Martino would be taken out of there? Luckily, was saved by the referee, but O'Malley should come out in this spot, dial it in, first round, first few minutes, lighting Paiva up. The longer this fight goes, I do have some reservations here. There's a clear blueprint out there on how to beat Sean O'Malley. If O'Malley is starting to eat leg kicks at any stage in this fight, he's susceptible to being taken out. Paiva is a very durable fighter, still young. He's younger than O'Malley, coming from a great camp. I am going to be picking an underdog in this spot, but my advice is to wait on this play. Wait a few minutes. Wait until this fight hits the second round, when the damage starts to take its toll and Paiva is going to become live. I'll be picking Ryan Paiva in this matchup. Oh, we have a special guest this morning, my friends. Let's see who we got. Look who's here. Big Pretty. Big Pretty's back. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Sorry for the break in the action. Exciting turn of events. Let's continue this journey where we have Cody Garbrandt, another Team Alpha Male fighter, dropping down to 125 pounds to take on Kara-France. Kara-France, we know. He hung in there versus Brandon Royval. The Bontorin fight was another matchup that, let's be real, Bontorin was on the verge of winning that fight. It was a grappling domination by Bontorin. Once we got back on the feet, we know Bontorin does not have great cardio. In this spot, Cody Garbrandt is a fighter who could potentially cause Kara-France problems on the feet. I see that 1-2 of Cody Garbrandt causing Kara-France real problems. Now, down at 125 pounds, is Kara-France going to out-hustle Cody Garbrandt? I do see that being a path to victory for him, changing levels, causing Cody Garbrandt some problems if Kara-France is able to land takedowns. But Kara-France is somebody who should be fighting at 115 pounds if there was a weight class for that. I believe he's undersized for the division. I think that you saw Cody Garbrandt make weight last time out. In this spot, I think Cody Garbrandt is the play here. Yes, he does have chin issues. We are aware of those. They've reared their ugly head. He's lost a number of fights in a row. And the Rob Font fight, he had his moments at certain points of that bout, but then got blown out of the water down the stretch. I don't think Kara-France has the firepower to cause Cody Garbrandt big problems. And in this spot, I'll be picking Cody Garbrandt. I think that he's going to get this done inside the distance as well. Kara-France, I think he's just too undersized in this matchup and for the division in general. And Garbrandt, I mean, the quickness, I expect that to carry down at this weight class. So give me Cody Garbrandt in this matchup. Now, Jeff Neal taking on Santiago Ponzinibbio. Interesting narrative here where we have Jeff Neal and the DUI situation, etc., the firearms charge. Who knows what the hell was going on in that matchup? We work on, we deal with the cards that were dealt here. We play the cards that were dealt, and we have Jeff Neal now as a minus 110 at the betting window, and Santiago Ponzinibbio minus 120. Ponzinibbio also, he's had some major health issues. Both of these guys, major health issues. This is a pick'em fight for a reason, and I question Ponzinibbio's durability in this spot. I think Neal, especially in the larger octagon, he's going to have more room to work, and this is someone who can string kicks together, and his length, his straight punches right down the pike should cause Ponzinibbio some problems. If Ponzinibbio is able to mix in his grappling, this fight may, the complexion of the fight may change. But I'll be picking Jeff Neal here. I think that there is a bit of value in this spot. I think that folks may be buying into the narrative. Granted, you never want to hear that a fighter's out partying a couple of weeks prior to the biggest fight of their life. Every fight is the biggest fight of their life. Give me Jeff Neal in that matchup. Yes, Big Pretty is massive. You are correct. We had a appearance of Big Pretty earlier in the broadcast. If anybody wants to tune in and check that out. Next up, where we have Juliana Pena coming in as a plus 625 underdog, taking on Amanda Nunes, who, let's be real, we were concerned about her making weight in this spot back down at 135 pounds. She did make weight, and there's some animosity in this spot. And we know that if there's animosity in the lead to a fight, we typically see finishes. So Juliana Pena is going to run into a buzzsaw here early. I'm concerned for Pena. The competition, you talk about MMA math. Yes, Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena has beat a number of fighters who've caused Nunes problems. Both of these fighters getting up there in age. Nunes should get this done early, and I think the play is the under in this spot. You look at this fight not going the distance. I believe it's at minus 450 or so. If Nunes gets extended, then Pena could potentially become live. So I would not be playing minus 1,000 Amanda Nunes. I would look at the inside the distance props in this spot. And if you are thinking about Juliana Pena, look at her inside the distance prop as well. But save that money. I would not be playing Juliana Pena. I would avoid this fight. Give me Amanda Nunes. I just think there are levels in this spot. But the thing is, once fighters gas out, the skills that are at the availability of each fighter disappear. Once you're gassed, everything falls apart. So that is a real concern if Nunes gets drawn out here. But I'm picking Nunes in that spot. Main event of the evening, where we have Charles do Bronx Oliveira taking on Dustin Poirier. This is a fight that I love this fight for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is there's no beef here. You have fighters who are as honest as it gets. Oliveira is a slight dog. This is a situation where these odds could potentially flip, and it would not surprise me to see Oliveira end up being a favorite come fight time. Poirier, in many people's eyes, is the uncrowned lightweight champion. Went and took those fights versus Conor McGregor. This matchup, I mean, you look at Oliveira, he has the clear grappling edge. The quickness on the ground could cause Poirier some real problems. Yes, he does the right things on the ground to potentially avoid submissions. His defensive grappling has looked sharp at some stages of his career, but the quickness of Charles Oliveira and the way he's able to chain submissions together could potentially be a difference maker in this spot. The Timur fight a few years ago was something that really stood out to me. You watch the eye poke. That was a spot where Oliveira typically would fold up. He has a way out of a fight. Now he's the champion. Poirier, the longer this fight goes, if he's able to drop Oliveira, there's less quit in Oliveira these days, but Oliveira could be broken in this spot. And I think that if Oliveira isn't able to lock something up early, the writing's on the wall. Poirier should pour it on late second, early third round. If this even gets that far, then Poirier becomes live to totally take over this fight and drown Oliveira in the striking realm. But I see Oliveira coming out here, causing Poirier problems early, looking for the clinch, looking to transition. Somehow, I see Oliveira finding the back of Poirier. Now, Poirier, can he survive? Can he fight the hands? That has yet to be seen. We watched Khabib Nurmagomedov cause huge problems for Poirier, and Oliveira is the better grappler here. He has the better wrestling, and he has been working well on the feet lately. So I do not believe Oliveira has a granite chin. I think that Poirier could knock Oliveira out, but I'll be picking Oliveira to win this fight and get this done inside the distance. I think that is the play. And now that this fight could potentially, the odds could flip. Look at the under 4.5, even under 3.5 prop in this matchup. Now, everybody, go get what's yours this evening. This is why we were put on planet Earth, my friends. Let's go. Let's go. Cheers, everybody, on this fight morning. Let's do it.